On our last trip to Las Vegas, we stayed at the Bellagio and wanted to try a restaurant near the famous fountains. We all love a good steakhouse and decided on giving Prime a try. In this video, we're going to share everything that we ordered at Prime so that you can get an idea of what to expect on your visit. Please note this restaurant does require a higher dress code than some of the other restaurants in Las Vegas, so make sure that you plan accordingly if you do plan to visit.
The table bread that was provided had an assortment of different breads, and the first one I tried was the pretzel bread. It was nice and soft and had a delicious pretzel flavor. The next one had provolone cheese melted on top, and it was incredible. The provolone was so good and added a delicious flavor to the light and fluffy bread and was so yummy that we asked for more. The baguette was the last one I tried, and it was my favorite. When you added the incredibly creamy butter that had just a dusting of sea salt to the bread, it made me feel like I was back in France. These baguettes were perfectly crispy on the outside and deliciously soft on the inside. This was some of the best table bread that I have ever had.
When I saw frizzled onions on the menu, they intrigued me. I love fried onions, so I decided to take a chance on them, and they turned out to be amazing. These were actually a side, but I ordered them as an appetizer. The onions were cut into tiny little shoestring pieces and were so crispy and delicious. The batter had a nice flavor as well, and I could not get enough of them. They came with a sauce that I requested to be put on the side, and I was glad that I did because it ended up being very spicy. I don't mind a little bit of heat, but this was too much for me, and honestly, the onions were so good by themselves that they did not even need a sauce. I'd highly recommend that you try this as a starter or as a side.
For an appetizer, I decided to try the bacon wrapped shrimp. This dish made me so happy. In fact, this may have been the best shrimp I've ever had. The shrimp itself was cooked perfectly, and the bacon added just the right amount of saltiness. What really brought the whole thing together was the sauce. It was a delicious honey Dijon with just enough heat. I also tried the avocado that came on the side. It added a nice creaminess that was also pleasant. This was my favorite thing by far at this restaurant.
I ordered the grilled salmon as my entree, cooked medium. It came with a mushroom and leek garnish with cooked spinach underneath. The salmon at first bite was heavenly with a wonderful flaky texture and buttery flavor. I loved how fresh this fish was and how well it had been cooked. The only thing that I didn't like was that there was no skin cooked on the fish. This is my favorite part when eating salmon. The mushroom and leeks were not something that I enjoyed, even though they were cooked well. The spinach had a good flavor to it though, and it made for a great accompaniment to the salmon. If you've watched many of our videos, then you will know that I eat mashed potatoes pretty often, so I had to try them here at Prime. You could tell just by looking at these potatoes that they were going to have a lot of butter flavor to them, and let me tell you, they did not disappoint. They were some of the best mashed potatoes that I've eaten at a restaurant. They were creamy and very buttery, pureed perfectly so that they did not have any lumps. They were so good that our table ended up ordering a second side of them to split. Definitely recommend trying these with your entree.
I decided to just order 2 sides for my meal, so I got the mac and cheese and the cheddar broccoli. I tried the mac and cheese first, and I cannot begin to describe to you how disappointed I was. Maybe it's wrong of me, but in a really nice restaurant like this, I definitely have a higher expectations, and this was up there with some of the worst mac and cheese I've ever had. Menu gave no description, so I don't know what kind of cheese it was, but it was incredibly strong and off-putting. My suggestion is definitely skip this side. Next up was the cheddar broccoli. The broccoli itself was steamed very nicely, and whatever cheese they used for the sauce was very good. It was also topped with mint and jalapeno, and I've never had that combination on anything before, let alone broccoli and cheese, and it was just a little too weird for me. The flavors were not terrible, it just wasn't my thing.
My main entree, I ordered a steak. I chose the 8-ounce Filet Mignon and had them butterfly it. The first thing that I'll say about this steak was that the flavor was incredible. It had a really nice sear and was delicious, but I did find the texture to be a little bit off for me. It was slightly chewy and wasn't as soft as I was expecting it to be. However, that being said, it was a good steak. It just didn't quite meet my expectations for this restaurant or for the price.
For my meal, I went with the dry aged ribeye. This steak looked absolutely amazing. Now don't get me wrong, this was a good steak. It was cooked to a perfect medium, seasoned well, had a nice char, and was very tender. It just wasn't as good as some of the other steaks I've had in Vegas. My first bite was amazing, but all the following bites were just okay. Maybe my expectations were a little high, but with the cost and the atmosphere of this restaurant, I was a little disappointed. Honestly, I would rather eat at some of the other amazing places in Vegas. I tried a bite of the roasted peppers that were on the side. They were good, not too much heat, and had a nice flavor.
As you can see, our group was overall just a little bit disappointed by our experience. What do you think? Would you give Prime a try still? Another one of our favorite steakhouses in Vegas is Cut by Wolfgang Puck over at the Venetian, and you can watch our video about that one next by clicking here now.